Time for our Ultimate Insider, brought to you by FFB Bank. And once again, our pleasure to welcome in Jackson Moore of Barkboard.com. Jackson, thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, you see Fresno State playing Miami of Ohio in the Arizona Bowl. What's your initial reaction?
Yeah, you know, those combinations of phrases maybe aren't going to be the biggest things that get the fans excited, but I'm just glad it's not the New Mexico Bowl or the Potato Bowl. You know, it's going to be something new, something fresh. They're in a bowl game they've never played before in. They're playing an opponent they've never played before. They're playing in a town they haven't been in since the 80s. So a lot of things that are fresh here. I think it's going to be a fun experience. Again, this Arizona Bowl might be the last time Fresno State gets a chance to play in it, since it's a Mountain West MAC game and they're moving to the Pac-12. So nice to knock this one out and not be too repetitive here.
Jackson, what do you think the biggest emphasis will be during preparation for the bowl game?
Well, it's going to be night and day from last year, where the emphasis was just holding the team together and trying to get enough guys to play, it felt like. I think they've moved the portal window back to January. It should be, especially with Coach Ince returning, we all assume that it's going to be a lot more cohesive. So it'll be interesting to see how much they focus in on this game, but also we know Coach Ince loves his development, and they've got a few weeks here. It's not an early bowl game where they can develop the younger guys and get them ready for next season. So kind of try and toe that line and then bring home a trophy.
Of course, a lot of people will be focused on the quarterbacks, and sometimes, you know, in bowl game prep, it gives an opportunity for some other quarterbacks maybe to get some work. How do you think Coach Ince will handle the quarterback situation, obviously with Conklin and Warner both seeing time this year?
Well, I think just since Warner's got the last two games to himself, I assume we're going to see him start and play out the game. I think, you know, there could be a temptation to maybe see Carson Conklin one more time before you make a decision what you're going to do this offseason. Maybe, we've been told in the last couple of weeks of the season that the the practices up to those games kind of dictated things. So maybe Carson has a good couple of weeks of practice and EJ doesn't, and they make a change. But I'm assuming we'll see Warner, and then they'll turn the page, and might be someone that's not even here starting for the Bulldogs next season. So that's kind of how I see it playing out.
Jackson, how should we view the first year under Matt Entz?
You know, there was a few lows, but mostly highs. I think if you told me at the beginning of the year the Bulldogs were going to go 4-2 on the road against the schedule, I would have been amazed, because they were kind of listed as underdogs in all 6 of those games when the season started. Some of them became a little easier along the way. Probably the easiest one was Colorado State, which they let get away. So, you know, you balance that kind of stuff. But at the same time, 4-2 at home, probably would have hoped they could have gotten to 5 or 6 home wins. So ultimately, I think it set the tone. I think it's impressive they were able to win 8 games without a stable quarterback situation throughout the year. And you wonder what this team can be when they've had a year or 2 or 3 of linemen that look like Coach Ince linemen and have been in the system for a couple of years, and hopefully better quarterback play. And you know, you can see what they're building towards. If this is the floor, then it could be pretty exciting here in the next couple of years.
You know, we've kind of seen the importance of bowl games, especially the minor bowl games, get diminished a little bit with the transfer portal, guys opting out. How important is it to get a win in a bowl game for a program like Fresno State, you know, after year 1 under Matt Entz?
I think it's important. I think especially in this game where, you know, fans go, ooh, Miami, you know, a MAC team or whatever, but the MAC has beaten the Mountain West 3 out of the last 4 times in this game. It's kind of one where it's not a good look if you lose to this team. So you better bring home that trophy and give something for people to celebrate. I think most importantly, it gives you some momentum into the offseason, gets the ball rolling. Maybe it helps a little bit with portal recruiting as well. So that'll be right around the corner. So, and then gives more hardware in the locker room and the offices for Coach Ince to show off. So that never hurts.
What do you think are some of the biggest areas of need for the Bulldogs moving forward?
Yeah, well, quarterback is at the top of that list. You know, if they get a surefire starter in the portal, you know, that changes things for this team pretty much overnight. Offensive line is going to be big. They're graduating 3 starters, so do they have some guys ready to go? We haven't. I mean, this O-line that we've seen already was after a couple of players got injured, so probably need some guys to come in and play right away on the O-line. And then on the defensive side, you're graduating a lot of starters. I think cornerback especially is a spot where there's not a lot of proven depth behind Alzillian Hamilton and Jakari Embry. So those are the spots I look at. But the high school class they signed, there's almost no needs. I mean, they hit just about every single position. So now it's really figuring out who leaves and who you got to replace in this portal window.
All right, obviously there's a lot of sports going on right now, both football and basketball at the same time. Let's take a look at Fresno State, some highlights from yesterday against Arkansas as we kind of shift gears and show you how that game went down. You know it was going to be a tough task for the Fresno State men yesterday in Little Rock against 25th ranked Arkansas, and that's what it turned out to be. The Dogs hung around for a while, freshman Deshaun Gorey and DJ Stickman keeping them within 10 at the half, but the Bulldogs' best two scorers, Zayon Collins, Jake Heidbreeder, combined to go only 3 of 24 from the field, and in the second half, the Hogs would assume control. They eventually lead by as many as 30 on their way to a 24-point win over Fresno State on Saturday. One bright spot for the Dogs was the play of 7-foot big man Wilson Jack. He finished with 12 points and 14 rebounds in the loss. All right, Jackson, Fresno State is 6-4 this season. Got, some good wins over Utah Valley and Pepperdine. Bad loss against USC Upstate, Cal State Bakersfield loss at Selland kind of was rough to take. Have the Dogs been better or worse than your preseason expectations?
They've been, I guess, about what I had hoped for. You looked at the logos on that non-conference schedule and you hope they'd rack up a lot of wins, maybe a little more than 6, but at the same time, those teams have been a lot tougher than I expected. You look at the net rankings, teams like UC San Diego, even the teams they've beaten, Utah Valley, New Orleans, some of these teams are pretty solid and comparable to the types of teams they've seen in the Mountain West. So, if you could just get that Selland Arena win back, I think I'd be pretty happy, about on par of what you would hope. Didn't know with so many new faces, could go a lot of different ways, but I think they've kind of instilled some hope. Arkansas aside, they didn't stand much of a chance in that game, but it looks like the way they're playing, comparative to maybe a little bit of a down year in the Mountain West, that they should be competitive going into conference play.
Despite the result of the Selland game, still a fun environment. What was your reaction to that, and do you think this is something that Fresno State should start implementing moving forward?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was so neat to see the human tunnel with the fans come down and have the players take their lap around the court, and even the old timeout. That was cool. I didn't know that costume was even still in existence. So a lot of fun things, I think, for people that experience Selland Arena to relive. And yeah, it was a fun environment. I feel like the attendance wasn't that overwhelmingly greater than some of the games we've seen in the Save Mart Center, but just the atmosphere. Everyone was loud and into it from start to finish. So that was neat to see. I hope it's something that they bring back every year. Coach Wahlberg said the same. So hope it's at least once. Maybe they look into that even a little bit more.
All right, one final basketball question. Tough to get a read on the conference sometimes this early in the year, right, with the non-conference schedules. But Fresno State picked 11th in the preseason poll in the Mountain West. If you were voting today, where would you put them right now?
Yeah, I think the net rankings have them at about 8th or 9th right now. I think that's a little more fair. I think also these last couple of years, the Bulldogs were, last year even lower, but about 9, 10 or so, and it just felt like 8 and above. They didn't have much of a chance against. And now it feels like that top tier might be 1 through 3 or 4 that are probably going to be upsets if Fresno State can pull it off. It feels like the bottom 2/3 of the conference they can compete with on a given night. So I think I would put them at 8 with some room to move up or room to move down, kind of depending on the health of this team.
All right, Jackson Moore, stick around. We got one more segment to come with you.